Here we have this kitchen that we're gonna be doing a facelift. I call it a facelift because it's not a full remodel. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to remove all doors and we're gonna replace them with new doors, shaker style doors to be exact. Also, we're gonna be removing that ugly crown molding that's on top. We're gonna replace it with just a straight 3.5-inch trim. On top of that, we're gonna be removing all the granite and the backsplash. So basically, new doors, new backsplash, new countertops, new paint job on the cabinets, and that's pretty much it. Oh, and also a new sink for this kitchen. One of the biggest things in this kitchen is the quartz. So that's why we're making this template. We got to make sure it's nice and clean. The cuts are nice and clean. And we're going to eliminate seams by doing this. You're going to get the most out of your quartz. So if you're doing a kitchen, make sure your guy makes a template if he has to, because sometimes you don't have to. Some of the cuts are very simple. This kitchen had a lot of angles, a lot of cuts in the whole kitchen. So that's why we had to use a template. So here we have the beautiful quartz in this kitchen. It's just amazing. The homeowners made a very, very nice choice of the quartz selection. Wow, that quartz is so beautiful. Anyway, so it's time to move on to the next phase, which is doing the paint work. You can see where we masked every cabinet, all of the inside of the cabinets. Once that was masked off, and it was time to do some cleaning. And of course, if you have done kitchens before, we definitely don't want to have any kind of grease or any kind of contaminants on the surface. Why? Because if you have some of that, you're gonna have trouble with the primer, having a good bond to it, and also the paint. So that's where you're gonna start seeing some of that flaking off if you have not prepped the area well. So I had some people ask me, what do I use to clean the cabinets? To remove all the grease that's there after all the years of cooking? Well, it's very simple. I use a crock cutter, or you can use any type of cleaning degreaser. But here's the key. You gotta make sure that you wipe it once, and if it needs it again, wipe it again. If it needs a third time, do it again. And then the final step, or you can do this also in between, get you some Dawn soap, some dishwashing soap with hot water, little warm water, and just wipe it down. Don't soak it all in, just wipe it down. Remove that between doing the degreasing. That also eliminates pretty much any contaminant that's left over. So when you start sanding, you don't smear the contaminants all over the cabinets. So it keeps it a very nice clean surface. So okay, so now is the part that a lot of people don't like, is the sanding. What do I use to sand my surfaces to begin with? Well, if it's a finished product like this, it probably has a lacquer finish, most likely, or it might have a poly on there. If you see the white surface like this, it just has a clear poly or lacquer. So what I do is I just take my 320 sandpaper and sand with the grain. we remove all doors, as you can see, mask everything off, and we got everything ready for paint for the primer. So we're using Sticks primer, as you guys know. I love to use Sticks primer, and we're gonna do another kitchen with Sticks primer. So I left this undone here so you guys can see why I like to sand my cabinets. Now, some people say you don't have to sand them with a Sticks primer. I just like to sand everything down because it's just gonna give me that much better finish. Here feels nice and clean, but here just feels very smooth, and I want to get a very smooth finish here on this cabinet. As you guys know, we had backsplash in here. We removed everything and then to the studs, and then put on new sheetrock in here, and we're gonna paint everything first, and then the backsplash will come in after we're done. As you guys saw in the pictures before this video, we remove all the old countertops and put all new countertops, quartz. Very nice material, very nice. So also another thing that we do is I like to make something out of wood, solid, on top of the stove and on top of the sink. Why do I do that? Well, we always take extra caution, because one thing, when you're in construction, you don't want nobody using this sink at all, period. It's done, it's done and it's finished. We don't want nobody washing the brushes in here, cleaning buckets out of here. I've seen it too many times where people they don't care, they leave everything a mess in here. So we want to protect this, and this is one way of keeping away. Those guys are not respectful to the job sites. And of course, here's the stove, where it's already in here. We protect them, and this here and that there has a dual purpose. What is a dual purpose? Well, you can see, you put all your stuff on top of this here instead of a finished material. Okay, so that's why we like to put all that up here. Protective, and I mean all right. So we're ready to start priming. This is where it gets interesting, where you finally say, you know what, it's time for primer. You see some progress, you're excited about it. So, and the product that you're gonna put out is gonna look wonderful. So what we're using here is a Graco 390 as for the spray rig, and a Titan RX 80 for the gun. Now the gun is a very important part whenever you're spraying. You want to have a very good gun to spray fine finish cabinets or jobs. This one we're using a small 211 tip for the primer, and here's the description of the Titan gun that we're using, and I'll put a description on the comments down below. Also, you can see the fan. It is very good fan. It flows out very nice. You don't see no streaking, so everything just flows out. And how do you get to that point? Well, you get to that point by adjusting the pressure. Now everybody's a little different, the material might be a little different, so I leave it up to you guys to adjust the pressure and mess with it on a clean surface where you can actually see how the fan is going to work. Now the more pressure you put on there, the more the less streaking you're going to have. Now if you see streaking and the pressure is high, that means the material is a little too thick, so it's time to thin it down a little bit if you have to. So anyway, very excited about this project. We're fixing to get it ready for paint. Once all the primer is done, I normally put 2 coats of primer. Once that's done, then it's time to move on to the next phase, which is sanding. As you guys know, a lot of us don't like sanding, but it's one of the things that we have to do, and it's one of the most important things. Even though with this kitchen the primer was super smooth, but I want to go ahead and sand it with 400 sandpaper on this case. So here's the rest of the video, guys. Enjoy it, and we're gonna start getting ready for paint. Once everything is sanded and ready to spray, make sure you check for any imperfections on everything. So get a light up there, check for caulking, check for any gaps anywhere where it might need a little bit of putty or spackling. It's very important to do that before you start spraying. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, what size tip should I use whenever I'm painting cabinets? Well, you want to be using a small tip. In this case, I'm using a 208 FFLP. That stands for fine finish low pressure, and the finish is gonna look wonderful. Now you have to adjust the pressure to your liking also. You might bump it up a little bit more or a little bit less depending on your situation and the type of paint you're using. Here we're using Benjamin Moore Advanced. Yes, the drying time is a little bit longer and it takes a little bit more time to cure, but once all that's done, this product works wonderful. Never once had any issues about me coming back because of paint peeling or paint chipping or anything like that. And I used Advanced for quite a few years already. So of course, make sure everything's nice and vacuum and clean before you start spraying your finish. Alright, so we're spraying. We're finally putting some color on this cabinets. It's a tedious type of job to get to this point, but I'll tell you what, it's all worth it. Once you get to this point, it's kind of like going downhill. That means that you're spraying. Now, one very important thing, so make sure you don't screw it up. Try to avoid any runs. And how to do that is make sure that your fan is not close to the area. It's away about 6 to 10 inches depending on the pressure and the tip and the situation. What I mean situation is the kind of temperature out there. So what I do, I spray the insides like you see me here, and then I go from left to right because I don't want to double bill the paint in some of the areas. If you double bill the paint, it's going to happen mainly on the corners. So that's where most of the time you're gonna have a double bill paint on those areas, and that's where you're gonna have some problems about paint sagging. So once you have a little know-how, you can probably do it a little bit faster. But I do recommend, if it's your first time spraying cabinets, just get you a test area, practice with some pieces of wood outside, just so you can get the hang of it, of how to use the spray gun, how to move it. If you guys want to learn how to spray, I'm gonna have a DIY video about how to spray cabinets, and I am gonna break it down step by step on how to use the spray rig, what amount of pressure, how far away, pretty much a complete detail. So if you want to see that video, please put some comments down below, and I'll be more than happy to teach you guys how to do this. Well, thank you all so much for sticking around with me. This is a two-part series of this remodel that we did. So on the next video, what we're gonna have is all the finish and like painting the cabinet doors and door fronts. I don't have a video whenever we made the shaker style doors. It's gonna be a long video if we do that, but I just kind of wanted to give you like what we did in this kitchen. So here's a sneak peek of what's coming up for next week. Basically, we have the tile that we're gonna install. All the doors are in, everything's cleaned up, and the finished product. So see you guys next week. Thank y'all for watching, and please like and subscribe to the channel.